I drink and I know things. That's what I do.
Welcome back to Flagons and Dragons. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, proud owner of a map of all the secret passages in the Red Keep. Shout out to Maps of the Stars, Eddie.
It's a real pleasure to meet you. I'm Maps of the Stars, Eddie.
I'm here at Magna Mills to discuss Season 2, Episode 3 of Hot D, House of the Dragon, The Burning Mill. What do you think, Mills? Do we need to finally pony up for that Michael Buffer cameo? Let's get ready to rumble.
I don't know if we could afford that. Maybe we could get Bruce Buffer. It's kind of cool that he does the UFC stuff. Like they got like literally the knockoff Michael Buffer, and that'd be a cool rap name. If I was a rapper, I'd be the rap Michael Buffer. That would be great. But if I had to pick my favorite referee one, it's definitely Mills Lane. He'd do the celebrity death match. Remember back then? Like, let's get it on. He actually did real whatnot there, but that's pretty good. And let's get it on. Much like what happens in a brothel in King's Landing, you're getting it on with Flagons and Dragons, presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff, same place on the web. Thank you very much for remembering it. While you're at it, could you please remember the flaps? FLAPS. There's not much to it. Follow, like, and please subscribe. That's how you do it. If you had fun, please hit the thumb.
And you should know that we will be getting it on with spoilers. All aired episodes of House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones are open and available for fair discussion. We will probably do it at some point. We will not be spoiling future events from Fire and Blood, but there could be some reference to the books. Just know that. That's it. And if you don't know, now you know.
This is The Burning Mill, Season 2, Episode 3, 13th overall episode of House of the Dragon. Originally aired June 30th, 2024. Directed by Jita Vasant Patel. Second episode of House of the Dragon she's directed. Also directed the 8th episode of Season 1, Lord of the Tides. Written by David Hancock. This is his first written by credit on Hot D. And the notable guest star here is Millie Alcock as young Rhaenyra Targaryen. Told you, we're spoiling stuff. The short plot synopsis is: the war begins with the Battle of the Burning Mill, where both sides take heavy casualties. Criston Cole heads to the Riverlands to gather men to his command, while Daemon easily takes control of Harrenhal. Rhaenyra sends her 3 youngest children away with Rhaena, the small dragons, and 4 dragon eggs. Aegon struggles to control himself, and he humiliates Aemond in a brothel. On the advice of Rhaenys, and with the help of Mysaria, Rhaenyra makes a trip to King's Landing to confront Alicent. She gets Alicent to recognize that Viserys didn't mean for Aegon II to be the king, but it's too late to unring that bell.
Let's get started with our overall thoughts on The Burning Mill. They are so good at just edging it, aren't they? They just build it and build it and build it, and you keep waiting for it to explode, but there keeps being more things that keep you entertained as the tension continues to build. It's remarkable. I really like this one. I thought the Daemon of it all was really cool. It allowed us to see another kind of place within the universe. I thought the Rhaenyra of it was also very cool, her sneaking in. Yeah, there's some issues here and there with some of the plot where you just poke a couple holes, but overall, I thought this was a really exciting episode for what it was, which was simply a massive set it up episode. So in order to accomplish those things, I think is pretty difficult. I liked it.
You're not wrong in that it is a pretty, I think, high level chess piece moving episode. You're kind of setting it up here. We're almost halfway through the season, so the pieces should be about in place, and we will get to predictions at the end. But based on the upcoming trailer, it looks like some of the pieces are going to start moving. I also enjoyed it, despite the lack of kind of a notable death. We've had a couple of big moments in the first 2 episodes, so this is what qualifies as a little bit of a quieter episode these days. I definitely also loved everything with Rhaenyra, everything with Daemon. I thought all that was absolute tops. There was a little bit of humor. Finally, I've been waiting for that. Absolutely loved it, and we did feel the void of the Otto Hightower here. I'm not a fan of trading him for the boy. Who is it? Not Quain. What's his Gwaine? For Gwaine, dude? Not a good deal.
Gwaine.
Gwaine with a G, dude. Not a good deal. Let's be honest, parents. If you name your kid Gwaine, they have a very limited path in life, and it's being the lead singer of a cover band for Gwar. That's literally it. If you name your kid Gwaine, don't go there.
That's pretty much it. Thank you for doing that, Mills.
Anything else on the episode overall before we get into it, man?
They're masterful at setting it up. Let's hope they deliver. I think they will. But like, I really like where this went. I liked visually being able to get outside of Dragonstone and King's Landing. And even when we weren't outside of King's Landing, we got more of an in-depth look within. That's pretty cool. I like the expansion of the universe here a little bit.
Yeah, I like that too. And honestly, just getting outside is nice. It's a little bit brighter. I know they have to light things kind of naturally, and there wasn't that much light in these castles and everything, but everything is a little bit dark. So it is kind of cool to just get out into the space. And speaking of that, we kind of, opened the episode in the space, and there is a major battle that we don't see, the Battle of the Burning Mill. Is there any like questions you have on this, being a dude who just watched the show? I've read Fire and Blood, so I understand what happened. It's the same basics. It goes out a little bit differently in the novel. Obviously there's a little bit more detail. Is there anything about this that kind of confused you or anything, or do you think the show did a pretty good job of just kind of laying it out like one side was team green, one side was team black, they both fought, and everybody pretty much died?
Okay, so as somebody who did not know about the background of the story at all, having not read the books, I thought the show did an outstanding job setting the stage of who's who and letting it play out through the episode. And you get that crazy shot with the sword through the neck and everything of the, after they do the opening with the little spat there. I thought the show did a fantastic job of spelling out and making it known to everyone who doesn't follow, who didn't read the book, to be able to follow this thing. I thought it was really good. Now, if I read the book, maybe I would feel differently, but for somebody who didn't, I thought it was spot on. I understood and felt like, oh wow, okay, cool. And the way they referenced it, both in Camp Black and Camp Green throughout the episode, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think in the books, maybe it's more of a slight win for Team Black, but it's definitely not like a definitive victory. A lot of people die. That was a cool shot, like you mentioned it, like the kids fighting at the beginning, and then you just cut to the shot of the same dude with the sword through his neck. That was something they featured on the behind the scenes featurette that they had on HBO Max there. So that was pretty cool. They do shout out Samuel Blackwell, who died, so rest in peace. And they've also casted Aaron Bracken on the other side. So I'm just kind of assuming that we will see them at some point. But that was really all that mattered. And let's be honest, there's nobody we knew in this battle. So if they would have showed it, it would have been kind of an interesting flex, because it would have been a battle between two sides that you didn't know anything about. You know what I mean? With characters you haven't met before. So looking at it that way, this might have been, discretion is the better part of valor here, and just kind of cutting, till the end. Kind of remember the first season where like right before the battle, Tyrion gets knocked out and then comes through and the battle's over. I'm okay with that here. I thought it was well done from a visual standpoint too.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it made it the implication here that it was meaningful and substantial, the outcome, and it was a big deal with the 40,000 swords combined and all that. But it didn't have to give you this full blown hardcore battle scene where you're like, wait, who are we rooting for? So I think they really balanced that well.
As long as they're saving that budget for something.
We're gonna get a big fight. I know it. No, let's talk about Damon. The poor dude is all dressed up with nobody to kill as he wanders those hello halls of Harrenhal. Mills, what did you think about Damon's epic conquest of Harrenhal?
It was epic, dude. The body count, let me tell you, he hit this one guy so hard his jaw's gonna hurt for at least a day. It was just fantastic. I mean, I loved Simon Strong. He was great. Just just kind of walking in. David's like, I'm here to take care of all. It's like, yeah, okay, I guess you are. All right, how about that? Let's do this thing. Just kneels down. Like he's just more worried about not letting the dinner get cold.
I mean, it's prime aged venison, Mills. It's prime aged venison.
And you also had the alliteration of the poison peas. Seriously, this was just great because you knew Damon was itching for a fight. And this is one thing they talked about on the official podcast, the behind the scenes stuff. It's like he went there, he wants to redeem himself in the eyes of Rhaenyra. So he wants to be able to show what he did. It kind of is like a little bit frustrating, right? He walks in there and it's like, no, here you go. Here's the keys. Oh, good. Like it's like literally walking in, like, oh, here's the deed. We've already signed it over. It's been notarized. Just sign here. Here's the keys. You can take possession.
Yeah, I think he clearly wanted to go there and try to prove himself and redeem himself, so to speak, and kind of conquer it, and not just have it given to him. So it was interesting. It was interesting to see what it did with him too, with the hallucinations and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. I enjoyed seeing a young Rhaenyra. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, they
Sewing the
brought
head.
Millie Alcock back from season one, and she
Yeah.
was, I think, the character I would have least expected because the actress was kind of like, "Oh yeah, well that's cool. I'm done. I'm never going to show up again. It is what it is." Kind of. So that was super cool to see her there. And then, dude, she's sewing Jaehaerys's head back on and talking as Rhaenyra having to make up for Damon's mistakes. So at least that shows on some level that he is haunted by his, decision, and that leads me to believe he definitely told Blood and Cheese 100%, like, "Yo, uh, you know, maybe one son isn't as good as another, but you got to take the head of a son." So it does sound like he probably greenlit that. And if you notice, when he wakes up, it is right next to the weirwood tree, to the heart tree, right there in the, I guess what they would have is a God's Wood in Harrenhal there. And then you see a chick who tells Damon that he is going to die there. What did you think of that?
Look, I thought it was creepy, bold, and also a little bit chilling here. And I think Damon felt it too. He comes to from that dream, and he's in front of the heath tree, which hearth tree, which was, first of all, beautiful visually. We cannot give enough credit. You watch some shows, it doesn't look like this, guys. We're spoiled with how good this
Harrenhal
show
looked
looks.
awesome, dude. Like
It
gothic
looked
and
awesome.
rainy. In the bats are from the book. Like that's a big thing. And canonically, Harrenhal is basically regarded as being a cursed and haunted because everyone who takes
Yes.
possession of it dies, and it's gigantic and it's in a great spot. But it absolutely sucks because the biggest dragon ever melted the living shit out of it, and it's basically been shitty since. And I love that, right? Like Damon took control, and he can't even like stay dry when he's sleeping,
Yeah,
and they
he's
can't
he's
even,
he's finding the leak holes with the pot and whatnot. But um, eh, I thought that this was really cool, Mills, and I like this awakening of him where you don't know as a viewer, is he still dreaming or not? Because there was a bleep view when you're looking at this. It was really quick, but it was like the lady who was there for just a split second. It almost looked like she's translucent. It just almost looked like that for a split second. And so I think that creates some of the question around, did that really happen or not? Either way, I think it's meaningful. And I thought Damon felt it just the way we did as viewers.
I totally agree with that. I think there are some things that we have to give credit to in this sequence. I definitely like the idea that this was it. Remember in the trailers, we got all these shots of Damon in his big armor in the rain. I'm pretty sure this was all those shots. So that is a good for you show. That is a world class misdirect right there. You got me. How about the fact that Damon wants to be called Your Grace? They specifically address this on the official podcast. He's technically the Queen's consort, so he would not be referred to as Your Grace. He's trying to take a little bit of extra valor here. What did you think about that? Because Simon, of course, is like, whatever. I'm not going to let this, gunk up the works of the deal here. So he just rolls with it. But what do you think about Damon insisting on being called Your Grace?
Well, I think it's a continuation of exactly what Rhaenyra called him out on, right? That he feels like he was robbed of the right to sit on the throne, that it was given to Rhaenyra because his brother feared him and didn't want to deal with him, and that was his way of managing it. And that continuation shows up here, I think, wanting to be called Your Grace, testing the waters to see what would it feel like if I was the king to be. And I think it's important for the show dynamic to kind of feel that way and make you as a viewer wonder, is that still a possibility, or is at the end of the day he going to do what's right for Team Black and swear his oath and allegiance to Rhaenyra? So for me, I thought this was a cool continuation of that optionality within Damon and how he really feels about whether or not he deserves to be the one on the throne.
I think that's a good call. And I do just want to give all credit to Simon Strong because obviously he was pretty much going to bend the knee, I think, to whoever walked in there. Like as soon as that, troop 384 got to, would you like to try our fitments? He'd be like, oh, here, just sign here. Here's the keys to the castle, right? Like that. It would have been kind of cool if the Girl Scouts actually got control of Harrenhal, but that might have been a little bit too much. But the one time that he really seems completely genuine and he's not trying to sell Damon is when he says, like, fuck Larry Strong. Like he burned, he gives a whole description of why he shouldn't even been able to set that fire that was set. That's something in the books that is implied, but not explicit. Even in the show, I think it was somewhat implied, if not explicit. But here, I think this makes it pretty explicit that, yeah, Larry Strong definitely killed his father and his brother.
And I like the fact that Damon didn't buy it at first. And as the viewer, it took us a minute to buy it too. Are they really feeling that way about Clubfoot? Or are they just kind of blowing smoke up Damon's skirt here? I thought it was cool how they played that out.
And JBG, this is probably going to come up again, but Damon's line about the Iron Throne is one of my favorite things ever in the Game of Thrones universe.
We march on King's Landing and take the throne.
The throne?
It's a big chair made of swords.
That's not important right now.
I'm assuming they were going for the full airplane joke because, yes.
I love this because the response to the throne was such a big deal. And I thought this was hilarious to see kind of like his response to it. It added a level of humility that I think the show needed.
Yeah, way up there for funniest moment in the history of House of the Dragon and on the list for Game of Thrones universe. Absolutely loved all of it.
With Otto out of the picture, we do have to focus on Aegon a little bit. He seems to be listening mostly to Sir Kristen Cole and Lara Strong. Cole is going to gather men and march on the Riverlands. That's his plan. Aegon wants to join him on Sunfire, but Larys manipulates him out of doing so. What do you think, Mills? Did the Clubfoot really pull one over Aegon? Or deep down, was he looking for an excuse to bail?
I think you could probably read this either way. It does look like Aegon is spoiling for a fight, but it doesn't take much for Larry to talk him out of it, right? He just implies like, oh yeah, like people are going to be talking that maybe your mother conspired to send you out of the way or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if he would have bought it. So I think he was looking for a way out, and then you kind of get that scene with him in the mirror in his armor, and he's just kind of staring in the mirror. And I think he was looking for a way to bail ultimately, despite all of his talk and his bluster. I think he was kind of looking for an escape hatch. Larry's gave him one and he took it. So right now, I would say, upper hand Larry's, especially because Kristen Cole is out of sight, out of mind, right? Doesn't seem like he's paying much attention to Elised. He's still clowning on Aemond. So I think Larry's is definitely in the pole position as far as the, prime opportunity to manipulate Aegon. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think Aegon is wanting to come off as this big, strong, tough, I must be a respected leader. But in reality, deep down inside, it's like he knows he's the exact opposite. And he's trying everything he can to do, but he doesn't want to actually do what's necessary. And he knows that he really can't. And I think that's important in this because that's going to drive a lot of his anger, frustration, and angst, I think.
Like, what do you think Larry's primary motivation here is for keeping Aegon out of the field, so to speak, going to war? Is it because he's worried legitimately about losing Aegon and or the dragon? Or, and if that happens, then he's worried like whoever comes up next isn't going to be necessarily as pliable, right? I think he feels like he's in a very good situation right now with Aegon. So, who knows who would take the throne if something happened to him. So probably best to keep the status quo for Larry's, right? Is that why he's keeping him around, you think?
I think that, and I also think he, like many others, knows if Aegon was to get on Sunfire and go, he's likely to die because he has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't belong out there. It would be woefully ill prepared, and I think that everyone knows that. And I think that's Clubfoot's way of kind of presenting it to him, but talking him out of it without having to, really do it. And I think that's his point here, is that dude, you go out there, you're dead. And ultimately, that limits my ability to do what I want to do. I think that's at the end of the day what Clubfoot is thinking.
And he is now officially the master of whisperers. So, that is pretty cool. Kristen Cole also, I thought, actually had one of his better episodes. He got a new cut. He's got the Seth Gecko from Dusk Till Dawn now, that kind of like 90s little bangs thing going on or whatever. But he actually has a halfway decent episode, I think. Like, he tries at the small council. His idea isn't the worst. He does actually spot Bela on her dragon in the clouds, and then that finally gets it one over on Gwaine. And shout out Gwaine. I don't like this trade, Jamie G. Right now we're having the off season for the NHL, the NBA. We traded Otto for Gwaine. Like, that is not a good high tower trade right there. That's not good. All dude wants to do is go like hang out on his nephew's place and drink all his beer and whatnot. That's not cool.
It's really not. It is not a good look.
I shouldn't say that he deserves to listen to Guar, but I mean, just if you like Guar, there's nothing wrong with it. But he is definitely in over his head a little bit, right? A little bit in too deep. He's not qualified to be the hand, much less leading a military strategy, right?
No, he's out over his skis a little
Like
bit.
he can
He did have a
joust, he can
little bit of,
sword fight, but like this isn't really, big scale warfare isn't his thing, I don't think.
and he had a little bit of redeeming quality type stuff there with spotting the dragon and like, hey, we've been made type thing. I thought that was kind of he needed a win, and he got one there. But for the most part, you saw that in the scene when he's, before the council meeting where he's just hunched over, kind of staring down. This is a guy who I think knows he's out over his skis. It'll either bring out the best of him or it'll epically fail. And I think either way, as a viewer, we're there for it.
It is not really going to get easier because if you actually notice, he's got these new Kingsguard dudes who aren't very good. Those are the Aegon's drinking buddies. Like if you remember the scene from episode 1 when Blood and Cheese were breaking in and Aegon was drinking around the Iron Throne with people, that's the new Kingsguard. So that is probably
Yep.
not hyper optimistic for Kristen Cole and Jamie G. The scene where Kristen Cole asks Allison for her favor is one of, like, again, I feel an instant classic here. She does give it. It's like a little embroidered whatnot or whatever. And I've seen it referred to a few different ways on the internet. I'm curious to which is your favorite. I've heard it referred to as the boob hanky, the nipple napkin, the titty tissue, and the breast claw. And any of those stick out to you?
Yeah, the titty tissue's way up there for
The
me.
alliteration is so good, right? The
It's
double
so
T,
good.
it's hard to pass up.
We're obviously not working the program here, Mills, but let's talk about AA. Aegon and Aemond. Dude, what is going on with Aegon? Is he just trying to aggressively defend his throne and avenge his son? Or is he in the process of coming unglued?
I would say mostly unglued, but I don't know what the polling is like in Westeros for the political process. But I would say that the absolute peak value he has had thus far is when he walks into that brothel and offers to pick up the tab for the whole bar. At that point,
Yeah.
his approval rating shot up like 6 points. That was pretty amazing for him. Other than that, pretty much a train wreck.
He's off his rocker here for sure. And the interesting thing is, dude, and if anybody in a position of power came into any bar in any town they represent right now and was like, drinks on me, they will. I don't know why more politicians don't do that. That's an instant win.
I don't really know how you lose. I feel like that is an everyone win situation as long as you make sure everyone's got, a designated driver or an Uber home or whatever. I will say that the Valerian steel armor was cool. This is kind of a new thing. I don't believe this is canonical to the books or whatever. It makes a lot of sense. And the idea that it would cost as much of a castle probably makes sense, right? Because we've heard like even just like the dagger is like super valuable, sword incredibly valuable, an entire armor made of Valerian steel. That's got to be like wildly crucial.
Yeah, it's got to be super expensive and very special. And I think that also kind of raises the question of like him just wearing it around, right? Like how vain is he? And I think you're starting to see a lot of that.
How about just the fact that his vanity probably made him assign his buddies to be in the Kingsguard? Because you do get that great scene where they're talking about going to take the square out to the brothel, and Aegon reminds them like, "Yeah, y'all took a vow of chastity," and they're like, "Wait, are you serious?" And Aegon's like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Okay," but I don't really think it was that serious. But for a minute, like it gives you the idea like these are not going to be very good Kingsguards.
Yeah, dude, these are a joke of a Kingsguard. They're his drinking buddies, like you said, and they want to go out and party and abuse their position. He's best, honestly. Aegon's the most fun when he's out, drinking. That's the sad thing. That's not what you want out of a king.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much what we have to talk about. We have that entire brothel scene. And there are a couple of interesting notes here. We meet a dude named Ulf. I don't know if he's named here or not, but that's his name in the credits. And he says he is the bastard son of Balon the Brave, a dragon seed, and that technically he's Rhaenyra's uncle. And then the serving girl here, I'm like 99.9% sure that's the same girl that Aegon was raping back in season 1, basically.
Wow.
And that Allison gave money and sent away, and that's where she went. Almost 100% positive. And this is the same brothel, and I'm assuming the same madame that Aegon lost his virginity to, do you think he paid? Like he said, that's Aemon's first. Do you think he paid for that or whatever? Because I think he probably did, right?
You'd think he probably had to throw a couple coin to the broad. I think he probably did.
That seems to be who he would, right? He's trying to get Aemon to like loosen up and be cool and or whatever. And I definitely did not like see where this was going. And I guess we do have to say if you had like explicit fellatio shown on screen on your bingo card this season, you got that one. I didn't think you were. That's kind of just a flex by the show. I think if you didn't notice it, whatever, it'll be there for
It's
posterity unless
there.
they edit it out like the Starbucks cup. I don't think they will at this point, but it's out there. And then it's just Aemon too. I thought there was an interesting way for him to play it, because Aegon's laughing at him, trying to humiliate him. Dude just like literally gets up, hangs dong, asserts dominance, and is like, yeah, whatever, whore's a whore.
Yeah, and I think he needed this because he appears so weak, curdled up in that position. Last episode and now this, he kind of needed a little bit of like, I'm a badass moment. And I think this helps a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, you give the credit to South Park. They kind of called out Game of Thrones years ago for its love of wieners, and let's just say they might have beyond to something there a little bit. And we also get again the name drop of Darren. That's Aemon and Aegon's younger brother down in Old Town. Does have a dragon who's approaching flying age, so just definitely something we should probably point out.
Well, Wu Tang is for the children, Trick love the kids, and don't look now, but the Utes are on the move. Let's start over in Dragonstone, where Rhaenyra makes the decision to send her youngest children away.
Yeah, let's probably get the obvious thing out of the way first. Like, the three kids go off with Reyna, with the two small dragons, and four dragon eggs of a specific color. And the director heavily implied in the behind the scenes whatnot that three of these eggs end up with Daenerys, the colors match. Rhaenyra says Pento, so there you go, Game of Thrones folk. That there's a connection there to that. It's actually different in the books. It's not 100% confirmed. I don't how they got to where they did, but it's a little bit different of a story. But I don't really mind doing it that way.
It's kind of a big deal though, Mills, isn't it? Like,
Well,
I
I would
mean,
say the Game
that
of Thrones people, this is kind of huge. This is one of the,
it's
it's
huge.
right there. We're talking about kind of the main prophecy and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, look, this is what when she gets those eggs and they look like this, that's a big holy shit moment, I think, to a lot of fans. It was to me, and it's pretty cool. I mean, that it's kind of hard to believe that those eggs will take 200 years to hatch, but they do. I guess they were waiting on her.
Shout out Reyna. Not a character we've gotten as much of. We've gotten more of Bela, and Reyna is definitely kind of salty because she is not a dragon rider, but she definitely kind of perked up when she hears about the dragon eggs going. And I did like kind of the final scene between the sisters. I thought that was pretty cool. And I liked the way they played it with Rhaenyra too. It was a big goodbye. She kind of held it together, and then you see her later kind of putting her kids' toys away and crying. I thought that was a good way to do it because it's kind of been established that she can't really show weakness. So I think that was probably, about the way you had to play it. And that's a cool plot that I probably can't say anything more about.
Yeah, I think it is. I thought it was a neat way to do it. I like that they gave it something, not just like you're going to go do this and that's it. I like that there's a little bit of resentment there and makes you wonder, and also the kind of preface of like, hey, if things go sour here, we're depending on you. As a Game of Thrones fan and somebody who hasn't read the books, it makes you think like, oh shit, now maybe things don't go good, and that is the only future of the Targaryens. That's kind of an interesting thought, right? So I like that they planted that seed.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And I also did really love the scene of Bela and her dragon chasing down a Cole and Quain there. Like that, I thought that was pretty great. Like she pulls up at the end right by the forest. But what was she gonna do anyway? She was chasing him, but she was kind of told like not to engage. So I think it was probably just cool for the sake of being cool, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think she wanted to say, hey, I know who you are and I'm scaring the shit out you. Be afraid of us, kind of thing. Because I think it just kind of did another, it was another thing to signify that everybody except Rhaenyra thinks that they should be on the attack here. And Rhaenyra feels like she's got to find an absolute definitive no to I can stop this without war before she proceeds forward, even though everyone else thinks that she should be. And I think this was another example of that. And I thought it was made for a very cool scene.
Definitely, it reminded me a ton of like Tom Cruise's character in Top Gun, like when he buzzes the tower and he goes right by it. I think that was, like you said, there maybe a little bit of a buzz in the tower. We don't get much from Jace here. You just get a couple scenes, and you can just kind of tell, like he's like, "Let me at him," like he's doing the full crap he do. You see him over there, "Let me at him, let me at him, let me at him, let me at him." And
Yeah,
that
put me
way,
in, coach. I'm ready
yeah,
to
pretty
play.
much. I would say that's the way to go. And then Helena seems to have kind of made peace with the fact that her son died. She's kind of rationalizing it whatever way, and she does forgive Ellison. What do you think she's forgiving her for? I think it's kind of for occupying Kristen Cole, so to speak, when it went down. What do you think she actually was forgiving her for?
I think this is really significant because when Helena looks at her and says, and cuts her off because she knows it's coming, because Allison has been so persistent with Helena and I'm worried about you and how you feeling. Are you okay? All that kind of over aggressive, I messed up. Do you know? Did you realize? And are you okay with it? Kind of thought, right? And I think it's really significant when Helena cuts her off and turns around and says, I forgive you. Because you don't know if it's because, hey, you were betting Cole, our Lord Commander, when my child was murdered, and any other queen would sit here and say, I'm not comfortable with that. Something needs to be done. I want the head of the Lord Commander who clearly was derelict in their duty. I think it's a big deal. And I think Allison knows if Aegon finds out about it, he will also think it a big deal. So this is pretty significant that she says she forgives her. It's certainly implied, Mills. We all, look, when you're a fan of Dennis Reynolds, you have to understand the implication. And I think the implication here is that, yeah, I forgive you for, betting Cole instead of having Cole be doing his job, which could have saved my baby.
In his defense, I'm pretty sure Kristen Cole just would have been asleep in his own bed anyways. I don't know if he would have helped, but that is probably damning with faint praise. I just wonder, do you think, I guess put it this way, this probably leads to Allison being about as receptive as possible when she has that conversation with Renera, right? I don't want to get there yet, but I think at least this shows like this was Renera's best shot. Like this was going to be as open, maybe as good as Allison was going to possibly be feeling. So, when you don't hit that shot, then if you shoot at the king, you better not miss.
I think so. I think she was all the stars aligned, so to speak, for Renera. Well, let's finish up on Dragonstone before the climatic scene in King's Landing. What did you think of the conflicting advice that Renera was getting from both Rhaenys and her council?
I would say consistent. Her counsel has generally been pretty aggressive, while Rhaenys has always stressed patience, more or less. And she's not wrong. She tips her off that, Allison might be the track. It Renera had happened to gotten, a message from Allison. So you think that at least maybe there's something there. I thought it was pretty well done. I did very much enjoy the scene where the her counsel's kind of like, hey, why don't you like go away and like we'll do stuff? And Renera was like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. I don't know that they really necessarily believe in her, but they definitely want to go full Cisco, dude. It is unleash the dragon. That's their only plan, right? They don't really have anything else other than let's use the dragons, right? I think that's kind of the
I
problem.
think it's their biggest, I think it's their biggest asset. And they're saying, look, we can't sit around and play fair when the other side is not. We have to be the aggressor. We have the dragons. That's our one advantage. We should use it. And again, I think everyone outside of Renera and maybe Rhaenys thinks that that's the right option. And I think it's important dating back to season 1 and the relationship of Renera with Rhaenys to understand that Rhaenys could have that type of influence on her because she does. And the camera, they did great work while filming this, where it'd be one of those scenes where everyone is telling her she should do one thing and she looks up and Renera sees when she looks up Rhaenys and she basically, okay, I'm going to hold true to this because that's also what I believe. And to her credit, she's trying to get absolute resolution on there's not a way to solve this without bloodshed. And I think that's to be respected. She just doesn't know how to communicate and articulate it to the group. And the rest of the world's like, yo, we need to act. And our dragons are our biggest asset.
I think that's fair. I mean, Rainey's kind of lands, I think, the biggest point when Rhaenyra's trying to be mad at Alicent, and she's like, "Look, Alicent had about as much to do with the death of your son as you had to do with the death of hers." You know what I mean? Like people
Yeah.
have done things on each other's sides, but you probably wouldn't go there individually. And it just landed for me. I thought she had a great episode. I love the scene with her and Corliss at the shipyard. I thought that was awesome.
I thought so too. And that as a non-viewer, Mills, I'm glad you brought that up because as a viewer and a fan of this show and House of Dragon, but a non-book reader, I should say, from watching Game of Thrones that bloodline, the Valerian bloodline, it doesn't continue. So I thought this scene was particularly interesting because he doesn't want to name an heir. Corliss doesn't want to name an heir. He doesn't like his two options, and it makes you wonder: does that have something to do with kind of the end of that house, the end of that family, the end of that bloodline?
I can't say anything about this, but I think it is certainly worthy of being discussed. And we also get Myceria here, and we find out she did definitely save Rhaenyra in the last episode. She noticed the twins. She raised the alarm. She decides to stick around. What do you think about this alliance? The only thing I will say is, remember when she first got caught, she's like, "Oh, I have nothing." She has an awful lot of nothing, right?
Yeah, a ton of them.
So you think she was just holding back initially, kind of like she really was just hoping Damon would help her get out or something, and then now she really believes in Rhaenyra, right? You heard her talk about, she's shown mercy, and it's going to be either one or the other, so she would prefer to be her. So you think she was maybe really trying to just get out, and then now she's really kind of thrown in with Rhaenyra, so she's showing her cards a little bit more?
A little bit, but this is one of the big question marks for me is does she have a bigger plan in play? To me, it looks like she's playing the cards perfectly, no matter what they're dealt. But I don't know what her end game is, and I think that's what keeps this an interesting discussion.
Yeah, you could definitely go a bunch of, I guess the analog is Littlefinger, right? Is she Littlefinger or is she Varys kind of, does she want to keep the realm running like Varys, or does she have, ambitions for the big chair, maybe a little bit more like Littlefinger? I think, you know, there maybe it's your favorite thing, dude. Maybe it's a little of column A and a little of column B. I guess anything's possible. I guess I should note in that scene that Rhaenyra shouts out "Sea Smoke." That's Laenor's dragon. We know he's alive, but she's pretending like he's dead and he's acting weird. Any thoughts on that? I mean, is that because like, he wants to talk to his owner and he knows he's alive, or just because he's getting restless because of the war? Any thoughts on Sea Smoke?
I really like this, and they did a good job of showing it twice, right? You got the one solo of Sea Smoke just kind of flying around, and then you got the scene where they're talking and Sea Smoke's in the background. I think this is kind of an interesting point because Rhaenyra's like, well, we must never know, but maybe that's not true. And I like thinking that it's something that's going on. I think it's, hey, I need a new rider. Assign me a new rider.
Okay, okay, and that's something that's not really necessarily established in the books, like how it would work with like, one rider if the other one was just gone but not dead. Like sometimes it's implied there's like a psychic link or whatever, but I think it's a definitely an interesting point to bring up.
Well, finally, Mills, let's talk about the big final scene in the set with Alicent and Rhaenyra. I'm not going to lie here. I didn't know if we'd ever get another scene of them together, especially face to face like this, man. What did you think of the ending, Mills? Your thoughts, and then does this mirror a little bit with the book or not?
The book thing is pretty easy. I can just say no. This is completely made up for the show, basically. I can say that without really ruining anything. And so I didn't see it coming. I thought it was great. I loved Rhaenyra's look as the Silent Sister or whatever, or the nun, basically. I thought that was just a good look. The whole vibe of the scene was cool. And they did something I didn't know if they would ever do, and that's they actually made Alicent reckon with the idea that she misinterpreted Viserys's final words. I never thought that was going to come up again. And let's be honest here, it was going that way anyways, right? When she went to Otto and said that, Viserys is dead, he would have told her just to say what she said. I think he even thought that she was lying that whole time. He was kind of like, "Oh, good, okay, good job saying that." Like he thought that he was just
Good
like,
cover.
right,
Yeah,
taking
like
one
she
for the
got
team.
it. Yeah.
She understood what the game was. So I don't know if it would have necessarily stopped this war from happening, but I think it is extremely interesting, that she gets it. It's a huge relief for Rhaenyra too. Let's not undersell that because she really is legitimately worried that Viserys did go back on it in those final hours. She was like, he reaffirmed me, and then like, it's a few hours later and he's dead. What changed? And I think that was really bothering her. So I think when she finally gets the eureka moment, realized like, oh shit, he was talking about Aegon the Conqueror. He wasn't talking about Aegon. It's just great acting on both sides, and especially shout out the actress who plays Alice and her face, just the way it kind of just subtly drops, and she's like, "Oh, I can only compare it to Arrested Development when in Job Luther, everyone's like, I made a huge mistake, and you get it, but she also understands now it's too late. She has no power. She can stop it if she wanted to.
You get that both individually, they've been so stuck in their ways around the finality of what was said and what should be given. And I really love the fact that you get this with Rhaenyra having to realize, like you said, maybe he did change it last minute. And also the fact that Allison's done a lot of things, but she hasn't really lied. But then when Allison realizes, oh wow, with the Prince who was promised, I thought that was a really cool tie-in with the song of Ice and Fire. I thought that was great. And when she realizes that, it kind of swings the pendulum back. And again, really cool stuff. Super tense. Great job by both actresses here because this is so intense for them. Like they're literally, I mean, Rhaenyra's is literally risking her life. Allison's taken back. They're both grappling with things. This was, to me, really well done.
My literal only complaint is it's just far too easy to get into, King's Landing. I
Yes.
know it's the Sept, and she didn't secret passage at this time as much or whatever, just on a random fishing boat. Okay, it's fine. I just that we do have to acknowledge that it's a little bit too easy at this point, but I think it was totally worth it to get that scene. It just sucks that there's nothing that could really happen at this point. Maybe they could somehow get some reconciliation through it personally, knowing, and I think they both believe it, right? When they both say, like, I didn't order your child killed, I think they both actually buy that, which adds to the overall understanding because the actresses have great chemistry together. So do the characters, which carried through when we did the flash forward and we aged up to the new actresses. I'm really, I think all of it is great. It's just, it's just a little bit heavy too because it's official now. Like there's no way out. You mentioned, Renero wanted to make sure, double check everything. There's no other way. There's no other way, and there's really no other way.
Yeah, and I think Allison did a good job here because at first you think maybe she's being a little bit bullheaded and maybe she's trying to just stand up for her son and hey, this is the way it is and I'm not going to change it. But I think as the show go as the scene goes on, you slowly start to realize that it might not necessarily be that she doesn't want to, that she literally can't. And I think that's important. And the loss of her father, and also her kind of acknowledging that Aegon is a wild horse roaming on his own right now that no one can really do anything about. I think that's also pretty important here.
Yeah, and you wonder if she kind of, imported her, uncle or whatever it is that in there to, her brother to, kind of like try to fill Otto's place a little bit, even though he goes off with Cole.
I think it's keep an eye on Cole and keep Cole safe because it's showing she still kind of does have feelings for him. But for me, dude, it's I think it's interesting here because an episode ago, for Christ's sake, she thought she could control Aegon. She clearly now is coming to grips with the fact that she cannot.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that. I mean, honestly, there's not a lot you can say. I mean, Jonathan Ellison, I mean, she does say, like, she's not capable of such naked deceit, but I've been down to those taverns in Flea Bottom, and that's not what Sir Kristen Cole says after he's a couple beers deep. He says she's definitely capable of such naked deceit.
She certainly is. Well, it was an incredible scene. I think that about does it, Mills. Anything else before we move on?
Not really. I think we've covered it pretty good. Definitely enjoyed this one. I am curious as to how we're going to hand out the whatnot.
Absolutely. Well, when we talk about TV shows, we have a lot of fun coming up with alternate episode titles. The Burning Mill is a meaningful title for book readers, but I don't know if it's that great of a title for everyone else for the episode of this particular one. Mills, do you think we can do better here?
I really want to do a full Frank Reynolds doing John Rambo, but I am going to go First Blood because it is a little bit of First Blood with the Brackens and the Blackwoods, and then you can get the they drew first blood. I also like Sin begets sin, even though I think it was technically the line of the show was like sin begets sin, but that seems a little bit too much for a title. And this is just a cool one. It's probably a better title of a novel or something, but the perilousness of assumption. And shout out Otto Hightower. It made me miss him. And then finally, just because I've already called out the Arrested Development thing, I've made a huge mistake. Jamie G, you have any for us?
I love those, Mills. One that really jumped out to me was the poisonous peas of war. I thought that could be so cool. I love the alliteration on that, and I thought it worked so well. I also enjoy Ghosts of the Past, and I thought that might have been a cool one with what happens with Damon, because I think those hallucinations are kind of more bigger of a deal than maybe what's let on. Very cool. It is time to kick off our award tour, and the first stop is our favorite moment from the Burning Mill. For me, it's gotta be the scene where Damon first arrives at Harrenhal and the dragon literally rests itself on the highest peak of crumbling, you know, castle. So cool. And he walks in there through those just dark halls, and it's raining, and it was just so cool visually. I really enjoyed that one.
I like that one. He's going with Damon's arrival. So I was thinking maybe of going specifically with Simon surrendering to Damon, but I will consider that part of that. I think it's too obvious to go with the whole final scene with Allison and Renera because that was more of a scene than a moment. So I am just going to go with, Damon's particular conversation about the Iron Throne, which is very great.
We know you love that one. Next stop is the Hot D hierarchy, which is our House of the Dragon power rankings. We do it for you guys each and every week. Go ahead, buddy. You're up first. Give us your top five.
Okay, at number 5, I'm going to go with Aegon 2. I'm not really excited about his prospects here, but he has a flyable dragon, and we learn that he has a full suit of Valerian steel armor. That's got to be worth something. So keeping him in the top 5. Jumping up into the top 5 at number 4, I've got Mysaria. She's definitely proving now that she was holding some stuff back. She's got some knowledge. She looks like, in the position of being Rhaenyra's master of whispers. So I think she is in a very good position. At number 3, I have David. He took Hall. I mean, he did take Hall. He's holding it for what it's worth. He's not even having to try that hard. So you got some free peas, some aged venison. Not really a bad deal for him. At 2, I have Aemond. Again, still the most powerful force in the land with Vagar. Also, Hung Dong to assert dominance. So right up there. At number 1, I have to go with Rhaenyra because I thought she really just got her shit together this episode. She dealt with Daemon going to do his thing. She did the prudent thing, sending her children away. She started making moves, doing what she had to do. And then ultimately, she even tried to listen to Rhaenys and went to Allison to see if there was any other way. So at least now going forward, she's going to wage war. She can do it with a clean conscience. Jamie G, who's your hot D hierarchy?
Bunch of good ones here. I really appreciate that, buddy. I'm going to go ahead and start us off. Number 5, I have Allison. I think she realized that, and I think the viewers realize that she doesn't have quite the pull that maybe we thought she would. And also now she's grappling with the fact that there was a big mistake and she's got to live with that and just the ramifications across the entire realm. Pretty heavy shit there. Number 4, I've got Aegon. he clearly is, putting on a facade, spiraling, not the type of leader that you hope and want. And I think he's kind of his own worst enemy here. I think we're going to see more of that as he emerges, and it's not a full blown Mad King situation, but I think it's going to be pretty close. Number three, I have Amond. I recognize the fact that he has the biggest dragon, et cetera, et cetera. We haven't seen a lot of him yet. He did hang Dong, which is pretty powerful, but we finally got a scene with him where he wasn't curled up like a little weak being. So I appreciate that. Number two, I got Damon, bro. He went, he came, he saw, he conquered, he Vita Vici'd the thing. The dude showed up like a boss. Really enjoyed the scenes with Damon. I thought that was some of the best, honestly, my favorite scenes of the entire episode. He's in a position where, he's kind of a 1B to Rhaenyra's 1A. And, if he's truly working on Team Black in behalf of the pursuit, then I think that's a good thing for Team Black. Number one, I have Rhaenyra. I think she showed true leadership, dude, to risk herself, to try to risk her one singular life to protect millions of innocent, I think is true leadership. And I think that's why she's perfect for the seat. At times I think like, oh, she's got to win. She's got to be her. But at other times I'm like, dude, she's too good of a choice. So it can't be her. And she's not going to get it just to piss us all off. I love that I have those debates internally with myself. That means the show's doing a good job. She got herself together here. She figured out that, she did the right thing. She risked it to find out. She figured it out. Now she's going to act. I really like her leadership style.
Nice. So we have a clear top three, basically in Rhaenyra, Abe, and Damon, whatever order you're going to put them in. Other than we both put Rhaenyra at one, so I would say she's the biggest riser in the hierarchy this week.
Absolutely. And next up, Mills, we got to hand out our episode MVP awards for this episode 3, The Burning Mill. Mills, this is a tough one. There was a lot of good stuff here. I hate to just go ahead and give it to Rhaenyra, but I'm going to because I think she really earned it. She went and dude, she risked her entire life to go and try to find a better way for the greater good of the realm. She got her answer. I think she's finally ready to do what needs to be done. And I think she can feel good about it and be effective in doing so and not question it because she's found out that there is not another route. I'm giving it to her.
Phrasing, but you didn't really have to sell me that hard. I am also Rhaenyra, so let's do the thing where we give our secondary MVP because we have a unanimous. I'm going to go with Simon Strong because basically every line the dude said was just pure gold, Jerry. Just gold. I enjoyed it. Brought some much needed levity and humor to the show. I could have also gone with Damon there. He was great, but I'm going with Simon Strong. Jamie G, who's your kind of secondary MVP if it's not Rhaenyra?
I got to go Damon. I think he clearly,
He took Harrenhal with like one punch. That's pretty impressive.
Did, but he also showed some kinks in the armor, and I think that's important too for the character. I like this. I'm going Damon. The final stop on the award tour is our episode grades. We each grade the episode of House of Dragons on a scale of 0 to 100 flagons of ale. Mills, how many flagons of ale are you raising up for the Burning Mill?
Ooh, to give it some context, episode 1, Jamie G, you gave it 89. I gave it 88. Episode 2, Jamie G, once again, gave it 89. I gave it 87. I like this one. I think it's probably my favorite so far. I don't know if the general internet agrees. I don't think like hugely my favorite, but I am going up to Jamie G's level. 89 flagons of ale. Jamie G, I dare you to give it something other than 89.
I am going to give it something other than 89. I'm giving it a solid 91 flagons of ale. I thought this was really good. I'm so impressed that they accomplished this with basically a chess piece type episode where they're just setting it up. To be able to accomplish what they accomplished while raising the stakes, building the tension, and setting this story up to kind of hit halfway through the season and explode. Really well done, man. And again, we take it for granted just how good this looks, how good it sounds, how great the production is. It's top notch all the way around. I'm giving this one a 91.
Well, that's an average of 90 flagons of ale on the wall. You take one down, you pass it around, and then you grab your your crystal balls, because it's time for predictions. This is going to be for episode 4 and the rest of the season. I have read Fire and Blood, but I'm going to be careful not to spoil anything that could be in the future from the books. We've both seen the episode 4 preview, so we will be spoiling that as well. All right, man. It seems like we are being promised some big action in episode 4. You think they are doing the fake out again?
I think it's a little bit of a fake out. I think it explodes in episode 5. I don't know that we get it this coming up episode. I think we get a little bit more of a tease and then it moves on.
All right, all right. Do you think Renera is the first one to go, full Cisco and unleash the dragon?
I do. I think she's made up her mind here and she's going to do it simply because she's in a position where she can, whereas the Crown is in a position in King's Landing where they can't. They're going to have to be forced to send out the one that's patrolling King's Landing.
Just for kicks, do you think everything in this trailer is definitely from this episode?
No.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple of things we've already seen already, and like that shot at the end of Rhaenyra's crown dropping, I feel is like extraneous, or if so, that'll obviously be like one of those things that it's not like she's surrendering her crown or something. It'll be like someone knocks it off a table or something when she's in the bathtub or kind of something random like that. Dude, how about Kristen Cole chopping heads? You believe in that? Is he trying to do the Ned Stark or what?
Yeah, dude, doing the Stark thing, getting the head chop thing. We'll see it. I think he's gonna look. He showed a little bit of leadership in this last one. I actually think it's gonna build to try to make him more formidable before his ultimate demise.
Oh, okay, okay. I mean, the haircut doesn't do him, any favors. Neither does, kind of putting Aegon's drinking buddies onto the King's Guard with him. How about Alicent here? It seems like she is now being a little bit more direct with Aegon. Is that because she's desperate, or because of her conversation with Rhaenyra, and now she realizes like he wasn't actually supposed to be the king, or your default a little of column A, a little of column B?
Mills, I hate to do it, but I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And I know I'm right. Because look, man, she now realizes shit. This little pompous asshole who's doing all this harm, who doesn't have the wits about him to do it effectively, and who's pissing on everyone who's trying to help him, including her father, Otto, and herself, and he doesn't even deserve it. It's not even his to begin with. Yeah, I think you're going to start to see a little bit of screw you. Or what else? You going to kill me? You going to kill your own mother?
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying now, it seems that Rhaenyra is confident that there is no path to peace, right? Like it's time to, go full Cisco. All right. There's a couple of other things I can't really talk about much, but I'm curious about. And Jamie G, obviously the show never shows anybody for anything. Thoughts on the dude we see claiming to possibly be Rhaenyra's uncle in the tavern?
I
And
really
the
like this one, and I love the comment about the hair. And he's like, "Step," he had like the excuse. I thought that was funny. I love the intro here as he walks in the bar and he knows everyone. This would be really interesting. It was also cool to see his face when Aegon comes in the bar. How cool of an intro is that? I like this. I hope they continue to develop it.
where do you think they're going with Sea Smoke? Again, the dragon we see in the scene with Mysaria and Rhaenyra, Laenor's, the previous rider there, presumed to be dead, but not actually dead. Where do you think they're going with that? Any ideas?
Concern is they're going where my concern is they're going to go where Sea Smoke is vulnerable to be taken by the Greens. My hope is that they're going with it needs a new rider and it needs it ASAP. And that's my hope.
All right, all right. We hear Damon talking about he wants to meet with Grover Tully. How do you think that's going to go?
They say he's senile, they say he's old, they say he can't do anything. I think it's going to be effective for Damon, and I think it's going to help him get what he needs to continue to build the army.
All right, so we're getting Grover next, I think. Who do we get after that first, Elmo or Kermit?
I'm going to say Elmo just because the balls of this guy, George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, I remember this is the guy who remember the giant from Game of Thrones named 1-1? That was named after 11, Eli Manning. That's why the giant was 1-1, because George is a Giants fan. So he definitely likes to cross it over. And when do we finally get the scene of Aegon in his armor, which we've now seen on his dragon Sunfire? We saw it in the trailer. You think we're getting it this upcoming episode, or are they still kicking it to deeper into the season?
I think we're going to get it sooner rather than later because I think he's going to be forced in his own mind to make a decision. He's going to hop on that dragon and want to do something, but then realize within that he can't, or get caught up and be in trouble, right? And risk getting hurt and then bail out of it. I think you're going to see him kind of come to just kind of the boundaries of his own frailness sooner rather than later. I'm going to say next episode.
Okay, I mean, he's got the best armor you can get, right? He's got the Valerian steel armor, which is pretty awesome. He made his buddies Kingsguardsmen. They're gonna die horribly, right? This has to end poorly. I feel this is not even from the books. I have no idea. This is not really part of it, at least that I remember. But yeah, these dudes kind of suck. Like they're definitely going to not meet a nice ending, right?
I think they're going to get a sword through the face. I mean, that's basically my prediction for both those guys.
All right, and what do you think is up with the chick at Harrenhal telling Damon that he is going to die there after he comes out of that, be it a vision or a flashback or whatever you want to call it?
To me, this was the clear signaling of a major war that's going to take place in Harrenhal. And I think it's going to be Sir Christian Cole marching on Harrenhal and Daemon having whatever army he has, whether it's Tully, whether it's this, whether it's that. And it's going to be this major war that's coming. Will he live from it? Well, now we have to question it. And I think that's really cool. Good on the show for doing that, because for the first time kind of in a while, I thought, wow, maybe Daemon could die.
I think that's a fair answer, and I want to say, given my ability to keep a straight face during that, I think I'm actually closer to being ready to play live poker again than I thought I was. So shout out for me. And we get a name drop here. I mentioned it before, Daron. That's Aemon and Aegon's younger brother. He now has a dragon approaching a flyable age. He's down there in Old Town. What do you think? Do we see him next? Or do we see Rhaena or one of, the youngest of Rhaenyra's three children that she sent away first? Who do you think we get, Daron or, Rhaena or one of the younglings, I should say?
I think we're going to get one of the youngins. I would love it if we get Daron. I think that's kind of cool, but I don't know that there's so much going on. I just don't know if they need to throw in a brand new guy.
Well, Jamie G, obviously, you've never been to that brothel in Flea Bottom because their solution to everything is to throw in a brand new guy.
That's true. That is true.
You gotta do what you gotta do in Flea Bottom to get by. It's getting expensive. There's a blockade. It's kind of a nice parallel that the blockade makes it to the real life kind of inflation of food products and everything. So that's actually probably unintended consequence, but nice parallel.
Yeah, very nice parallel.
That should be the theme of our show. Unintended consequence, but nice parallel.
Well, I think that just about does it. Man, what a banger that was. Thank you for checking out Flagons and Dragons. We appreciate you staying with us as we take in season 2 of House of the Dragon. We've been waiting a while for it. It's a lot of fun. Let us know what you liked about this episode, what you're most looking forward to with episode 4, and give us your best prediction. Either drop a comment below or hop on your dragon and ride into these DMs. All you got to do is fly in there, drop a note. We'll probably respond. Mills will let you know where you can find us.
That's all good. You should probably do, 2 important things. A, I want all of the airplane memes you can get out of, Damon's throne line. Whatever you can do, any mashups, any memes, we are there for it. And also, work a little more Cisco into your life. Unleash the Dragon. Thank you for unleashing Flagons and Dragons, presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Same place on the web. Thank you for remembering it, and thank you for remembering the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. Once again, all we ask, if you had fun, hit the thumb. I'm Magnum Mills. He's Jamie G. We're in the sky doing the thing. We'll see you next time to do the other thing.
Our flagons are empty, but they will be full when we meet again. Seriously, though, don't forget that it's bring your own flagon. We'll see you next time right here on Flagons and Dragons.